Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where...
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like...
Fucker! You fucker! Hey, fucker!
Oh! Huh? What the f...
Hello again, everyone. This is Bionic Slime. I'm your online voice for reviews of your choice, and this is another installment of BS Reviews. Thank you all for tuning in. Today, I'll be reviewing one of the more anticipated films on my movie calendar, known as Surrogates. Surrogates is brought to you by Touchstone Pictures, and it was directed by one of my favorite directors, Jonathan Mostow, who has brought us such films as Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, and Breakdown. It was co-written by Michael Ferris and John D. Brancato. It stars Bruce Willis as Detective Tom Greer, Radha Mitchell as Detective Peters, Rosamund Pike as Maggie Greer, Boris Kodjoe as Agent Stone, James Cromwell as Dr. Cantor, and Ving Rhames as the Prophet. The plot of Surrogates. Surrogates is set in a futuristic world where all of humanity has pretty much been living in isolation by staying within their homes. But they're not missing out on life. They're in fact living it through a new robot sensation known as surrogates. Surrogates is basically like a robotic double of yourself. While you sit in the comfort of your own home, you can send a robot version out into the world of yourself to do basically everything you would do if you would yourself. You can go to work, go to bars, dance, basically just do everything from the comfort of your own home. The surrogates feels everything, so you feel all the sensations of pleasure but nothing of pain. If the robots are destroyed, no pain or death are connected to the user. You just simply get a new surrogate. And people can change their surrogates to look like whatever they want. They can make themselves a woman or a man or white or black or old or fat, whatever they like, making identity virtually impossible to find out. However, something goes strange when a mysterious man uses a strange weapon and kills two surrogates that also kills the two users that were operating them. Special detectives Tom Greer and Peters are called in to investigate this, and they soon find out that supposedly there is some sort of strange weapon that allows a person to kill real people in their homes while connected to their surrogates, when the whole point of surrogates is that you can't be killed from that. Realizing the severity of the situation, eventually Detective Tom Greer gets disconnected from his surrogate and starts to realize just how hard things are living as a human being in a surrogate-populated world. Review the plot of Surrogates. A movie like this, now especially one directed from Jonathan Mostow, most people would expect science fiction mixed with lots of intense action sequences. He's nowhere near as bad as, say, Michael Bay, but he has been known for doing pretty intense action sequences. However, the surprising thing about this film is that instead of relying on the action sequences, it relies more on the plot itself. This is basically a gimmick movie, and while that may sound like a bad thing, this is a pretty frickin' damn good gimmick to rely on. Just by emplacing this surrogate's plotline into the film, you change the whole face of movie experience because everything is virtually different. You don't know who is who. You don't know what's happening. You don't know who's operating this surrogate. You don't know where this is going. It changes everything on all kinds of levels. It changes the whole concept of mystery, of detective solving, of action, of murder. Everything is completely changed with this whole surrogates concept. And it's an amazingly scary concept because from what everyone has been saying about this film, both on like History Channel and in the papers, we are not too far from having this kind of technology. We already have synthetic limbs and machines that are designed to give people who like amputees more feelings like for lost limbs and that. But this film brings this concept into a much more horrifying and much more realistic light. I love the fact that it made the robots seem so much more perfect and beautiful, and then when it actually showed the human people, they were all miserable, ugly, and just downright shitty looking, and it really just shows how quickly we are succumb to technological perfection. Just like in Wall-E, where all the people are becoming fat and lazy because they stop using their limbs. Similarly here, people are not going to go out in the world anymore because they're depending solely on the use of the surrogates. And as I said, while this is a gimmick-related movie, this one gimmick changes the whole ballpark of the film. And that's one thing I absolutely love about this story. It's ingenious in its simplicity, relying just on the gimmick of the surrogates, because it changes everything. You don't know what's going to happen, from who, from where's operating who to what. It's very surprising and a very intriguing movie. Review the characters. Bruce Willis, I've always liked as an actor. I always thought he's a very good actor. Since I said I was surprised that this movie relied more on the deception of the story than the action, it was nice to see Bruce Willis as more of a normal guy rather than just the die-hard action hero cop that he has been in other films. And what's great about this is that because most of this relies on showing the human emotions and severity of the fractures of human beings, they show a lot of his face with the scars and scratched up. And I thought this really worked well with Bruce Willis's acting because it really got the emotions down of what you were feeling from him. The interactions between his scenes and his wife Maggie really, I think, flesh out the deeper, significant emotional problems of the film. And I thought that was one of the most more beautiful and touching parts of the film. Ving Rhames is barely even advertised in here, and it's a shame because you almost can't even recognize him as he looks as the prophet. He looks kind of like a James Marley, like kind of like voodoo kind of man, and I thought it was a very interesting role for him. Radha Mitchell and Boris Kodjoe are people I've never really been too familiar with, but I was absolutely enthralled with their presence. I thought they had very good characters that worked very well with the story. I mean, it's like they had such presence in the film, even though they don't seem like they're that important at first. And James Cromwell, who I always like, I think he's a very good actor. He has a very interesting role in here as Dr. Cantor. It's a lot of good, solid amount of cast. They aren't magnificent. This is not a movie that's so awesome you can never forget it. But they give enough performance that you enjoy with what you're watching so that you're not just being supplemented by the intense high-tech storyline, and that the actors can supply with enough interest and intrigue as well. Review of the music and cinematography. Cinematography is very good here. It really gives you the sense of alienation and just dissociation with living life as a human being and seeing what it's like living through these robotic, clones, these puppets, and just walking around. And the camera work really gives you that sense. Like I said, it's similar to the movie I, Robot. But, there are obvious drastic differences. And one is the camera work, because I think this one gives you a better sense of desensitization from real life. You really feel disconnected thanks to these machines, as opposed to in a robot, when it's just more of the fear of the robots revolting. This is more of a fear on that concept of losing touch with reality. The music was good. It was interesting. The music really helped contribute to the message of the movie. The whole theory behind that these robots are making us lose touch with reality and ourselves. And I really think that this movie, that was the message all about. And I think a lot of ignorant peon critics that I've read in the papers and a couple douchebags I've read on some online review websites are ignorantly assuming that this is an action movie, and then that the story is too flat to get past that. And I think it's really cheap and just downright shitty from them to say that, because this movie is all about story and the drama and the depth of this technological problem. Flaws about the film. As I said, this movie is really good, but it is not completely unforgettable. It's not absolutely blown away. There are things and concepts in here that are pretty obviously done before. We've seen them in other films before. I, Robot, like I mentioned before, and other dystopia, utopia kind of films. This is not something we haven't really seen before. And I was kind of disappointed there weren't that many action sequences. Not that it was a bad thing, but I was kind of hoping a little bit more, because Jonathan Mostow is pretty good for that. I also felt that some of the plot twists and setups were kind of obvious. It kept things interesting, but at times it did kind of fall like you kind of knew where the movie's already going. And it was a little weird to watch these actors when they were in the surrogate mode, because they have the plastic look of them, like the Botox CGI thing. And it's kind of hard to rate their emotions when they're doing that. Obviously when they're in human form, we can rate them better, but knowing it's a CGI facelift, it made it harder in the beginning when they're using their surrogates to judge them. Final wrap-up. Surrogates is no doubt, in my mind, going to be panned by peons and pricks. This is some kind of stupid action movie, drenched in science fiction gibberish. That it's some sort of hollow storyline that's just covering up some mindless action sequences. Well, I'm here to tell you they're dead wrong. This is an excellently, ingeniously, and creatively contrived story that mixes such intelligence, such passion, such message with the setup. This is a really ingenious setup that, even though we've seen it before, it's done in such a way that you really can't help but really get sucked in by the drama of the story. It's a good message that I think everyone can absolutely relate to and see the pros and cons to it. I was a little disappointed with some of the CGI facelifts on the actors before, and I felt that at times it was too predictable, but overall, this is a wonderful film that I think is a great classic message, a brand new updated look that works for everyone and anyone. Bottom line, I give Surrogates 3 stars and a half out of 5. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Slime for BS Reviews. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye for now.